So in this box, we've got, well, 3 smaller boxes, 2 of which contain the watches I'm interested in covering in this video. Now, sadly, San Martin doesn't seem to put stickers on the boxes anymore, so I've got no idea which 2 it is. It's kind of like magical hats from Yu-Gi-Oh! You know, which one is the monster under? But stuff it. You know what? We'll open all 3 of these on camera, eh? And then at least you'll know my first reactions are genuine with them. Now, you'll find an affiliate link to all these watches in the video description. These were sent in by San Martin at my request because I saw these pop up on their site, and I think at one point maybe they did email me about them. And these were basically San Martin's best Specced watches yet for the price, and they kind of introduced some new features, at least for this brand. And the main model in question is the SN0012. And, well, this is exactly the one I was hoping to find first, because I think this watch, well, it looks tremendous on paper, and it's kind of got all the specs you could ever want for an affordable watch. To me, it kind of has one glaring downside, sadly, which I was hoping to avoid with the second watch I got from them. And here it is, the SN0012 dive watch. So what is it that makes this watch special? Well, I'm not sure. It's particularly the aesthetics on this model, because I've got to say, well, it may be functional, as we'll get to in a second, this particular version of the watch is a bit of an ugly duckling to me. And I think most of that just comes from the very, very unusual markers on this one. Now, it's not often you get big black lumps as markers, is it? Well, that seems to be exactly what we've got here. Yeah, very peculiar markers, and you may be wondering why they're coloured like that. And it's not just for style, because I think that'll be quite a bizarre choice. It's because of the rest of the dial. So you may notice it's got an almost sickly look about it, and that's because this one is apparently a full loomed dial. The logic being when the rest of this lights up, these do the opposite job of typical loom. They block the light, thus creating that kind of clock face effect, and the same can be said of the hands as well. Now, the hands are a tiny bit different. They aren't just squared off. They've got some facets to them, although no traditional luminescence here. And the second hand also quite an odd choice. Not sure where they got the inspiration for this from, but it's a bright red hexagon there on that second hand. Pretty odd to me, as there isn't really any other hexagonal theming here whatsoever. I recall seeing a watch called the Hex Mariner from some brand, and I guess that would make sense, but that isn't really the case here. So yeah, that's quite unusual. But yeah, functionally, this should look pretty good in low light. We'll test that towards the end. And that's not the only trick this one is packing, because supposedly this rather normal looking stainless steel case is anything but normal. This has got a special hardness coating built in, and I've tested some of these hardened watch materials before now. I did a big scratch test, you may recall, on Ben's Watch Club, and I found that these proprietary coatings, or these ones offered by different brands at least, they vary wildly in terms of actual performance. Like, some were absolutely useless, while others were nothing short of amazing. So I figured after we've had a brief overview of this, you know what, we will try and scratch this thing. We have my little Mohs hardness test kit here, and I might take 1 or 2 of these picks to the bag, just to see if that actually holds up, or if it's actually any harder than normal steel watches. As for the rest of this watch, what have we got here? Well, it is your kind of typical San Martin fare, which is all the specs, basically. So you do have a sapphire crystal on this watch. Now, I have just changed my setup ever so slightly. You may notice a bit of a difference here. So it's hard for me to really judge the crystal clarity as of yet. I need to kind of get used to seeing a variety of watches under this light. But this one definitely has some sort of anti-reflective coating. From my angle, I can see a little bit of a blue hue to it, and it is certainly clear enough, I'd say. This one's got a nice ceramic bezel here too, and this also looks fully loomed as well, so we'll see that in low light. As for feel, pretty good actually. Yeah, I'd say probably like a 7, 8 out of 10, so pretty solid bezel there. Maybe a fraction misaligned to the left, but not bad. And you'll notice from the movement of that second hand, this is also an automatic watch. Now, a bit of a lesser known choice under the hood here, and that's probably a consequence of the current movement shortage in the watch industry. The more typical Seiko and Miyoshi units, well, they're a bit hard to get your hands on, so they've gone with something different here. This is the slightly rarer Seagull ST2130, and having trouble with the crown here on this one. There we go. go. It does have a screw down crown. Don't have a great deal of experience with this movement. I'm much more accustomed to seeing those Seikos and Miyotas. But this one looks okay on the spec sheet. Looks relatively slim, as you can see. Not bad at all for a diver watch. And this one does also offer up a pretty decent smooth sweep. This one is a 28,800 beat per hour movement. So it is quite a bit smoother than that in the back of the entry-level Seiko watches. Can't recall the power reserve or exact accuracy on this unit though. As you might imagine, for a dive watch, also has pretty decent water resistance. This one has the full 200 meters, as you can see there on the dial, and that's accompanied with that functional, albeit a little bit gritty crown there. I think maybe that has a ghost position inside. Yeah, I think that might be a ghost position now on this particular unit, but no date actually displayed on this model. It's also got that screwed case back as well, so should be pretty capable aquatically. And something else that's capable is this bracelet from the looks of it. Looks like a full solid steel link bracelet. Now, I recall seeing on one of the AliExpress listings that someone said that these links were uncomfortable and razor sharp. And, well, they are quite sharp. I certainly wouldn't call them razor sharp. The only bit that is relatively sharp is actually these two little prongs here on that end link. Now, this particular unit does seem relatively good on the tolerance front. No obvious stiff links or anything. And this uses a screw link system too. So I imagine in the box we've got... Oh, wait, no, in the white box it must be. There we go. We got a screwdriver in here, as well as a spring bar tool, actually. So if you want to change the size of the bracelet, all you need to do is just grab this, take out these screws using your little screwdriver here, and then pluck out the links that you need to remove, and then reattach the two ends of the bracelet. This one does fit, thought I'd check, as I've received quite a few times before now watches where the screwdriver doesn't actually fit the bracelet, surprisingly. But this one does, and you also have some mini links there too, or at least one. Whether that one is actually removable remains to be seen. Not sure with that one. But the real winner here, you don't really need a smaller link. When you've got this micro-adjustable clasp system here, you can do this on the fly without any tools. So you can adjust by simply pushing and clicking the bracelet in a bit. You've got several different positions there to pick from, and then you can just push this and slide it back out if it's a bit too tight. So overall, pretty decent system this. Not quite as good as like the Glide Lock clones that I've seen, I don't think. But certainly not bad, and we'll definitely get the job done. Also, a nice milled steel clasp there too. And as you can see, end up with no holes on the side, giving that kind of smooth look. So overall, pretty well-built watch, as I expected, just not the most attractive one. And while this is the one that lots of people have been making videos about, at least what I've seen in the titles and thumbnails, I don't spend really any time watching other people's videos, but I'm assuming that's mainly because of this loomed dial. No one seems to be covering the other versions of this watch, and I have to say, when I looked on AliExpress, I did think that the black version may basically dodge most of the biggest issues with this watch. Because while it is very functional, I personally wouldn't wear this. And I got that off milk look, that kind of greeny hue. Whereas the other one just looks a bit more like your standard black, cleaner dive watch. And they've also got an orange one too. I'm assuming that one may be luminescent. But yeah, the black one is the one I was really intrigued to take a look at. Now, which do we go for here? Which one is going to be the black one and which one's going to be a different watch? Let's go for the pretty decent condition box. On the off chance that that's come out of the same batch. And we're right, yes! Well, there we go. I really can leave the other one as a secret for next time. And yeah, I can tell straight through the plastic. This is definitely, well, a bit of a safer choice. Still a better looking choice, I would say. Get all this plastic off. And while wrestling with that, definitely did just prong myself a little bit. So maybe that reviewer is onto something. Just here on the tips of the lugs. I mean, it's a really difficult balance when it comes to watches, because the edges have got to be sharp enough to look and feel high quality, you know, over the smoother finishes that you typically get with the cheaper watches with all the rounded off corners, but not too sharp as to cut the user, or hurt the user at least. I think this one's probably just about okay for the most part though. But wow, this watch actually looks pretty decent, don't you think? Yeah, I think this is by far the better looking option of the two. Almost has like a half vintagey look about it, as if that super bright luminescence was kind of faux patinaed or something, because that colour is very similar to the dial colour of the other one. As you can see, they've got the same sort of accents, just inverted. And I do think this one here definitely looks better out of the two. And yeah, crystal clarity, definitely not a problem on this watch. This crown as well, just coincidentally, is smoother than the other one, so I guess there's some randomness to it. But statistically, this is identical to the other one, except for the dial. So it doesn't have that full dial luminescence, but it does seem like the lume will be pretty strong on this. You'll notice outside of those blocked lume markers, which already tend to be the brightest stuff, the hands are also not your typical kind of white or silver outlined hands. They are, I think, kind of lumed as well. So yeah, I'd be very interested to see this under low light as well, but I think absolutely the more attractive of the two by some margin. And frankly, out of the options available online, this is the only one I would be interested in personally, if it were smaller at least, because that's the other thing we haven't talked about yet, is size on these. Now, because they're listing so many different specs and, you know, that unusual movement and all that, loads of the titles of this watch don't actually say how big the watch is. So why don't we give that a test? Now, the description calls this a 40mm watch, but let's see. Guess it kind of depends where you measure because of those crown guards. I've got that more like a 40.5 on the nose there, and does look a bit big for a 40mm to me. I mean, even the bezel there you can see is about 40.5 itself. So unsure exactly where they're getting 40mm from for this one. Lug to lug isn't huge by any means here. It's like 48.3, and thickness also doesn't look substantial. No, 12mm is pretty decent for a dive watch, and that's including a crystal that's slightly raised there. So hard to tell on camera, but there is an ever so slight drop down from the crystal, which some people like, other people don't like. Personally, I'm not bothered. I wear more watches than most people, and I've never personally nicked a crystal and like smashed it from the side, but I guess there is a chance. Lug width, by the way, if you don't want to change that razor sharp bracelet, is 20mm, so a pretty standardized size. And I'll give you a quick demo of this on my 6¼ inch wrist. You'll notice my new light means I can put this watch in a bit more of a square on position these days with these wrist shots. And yeah, maybe looks a bit smaller than I expected on wrist. This definitely doesn't look like a 40.5mm watch. Maybe it looks more like a 39.5mm one typically. But that said, I find myself saying that in every video, don't I? Most of these watches fit differently than the diameter suggests. I think that in general, lug to lug is just a more representative measure of how big a watch will actually look on your wrist. Thickness here, very good actually. Very, very sleek for a diver. And maybe looks a hair better than I expected when it's on. I think in person it's slightly less green tinged than I expected, but still wouldn't be my go-to by any stretch. I think this other one probably going to look better. And again, just not really sure what that second hand is doing there with that red hexagon attached to it. Does look a little bit odd. Not sure what colour I would have gone with, but not sure that one is it. Having moved it around on my wrist a bit though, I'm not feeling any obvious like parts where the bracelet or the case would cut me personally. I've just noticed how unusual is this. This clasp is upside down. Well, the bracelet is inverted basically, so I went to put it on and well, it's the opposite direction from normal, which is a bit odd, but doesn't matter all that much. Just an odd thing to get through QC, really. But without a doubt, this is the one I would go for if I were considering this watch one of the kind of max specs. For not too much money either, by the way. This watch, I haven't mentioned price. It's only about £300, or just under £300, and that's excluding discount codes. So what's that about? Probably $380 US, and currently on AliExpress they've got a discount where you can get £25 off, or about $40 off that price. So spec wise, very, very competitive, and in this guys, not bad. I mean, I think the design is still a little bit vanilla, but I think those big lume blocks do help separate it a bit, as does that unusual kind of fully lumed and coated handset. Overall, not bad, almost like a halfway house to a vintage watch. And legibility, still not a problem, even in direct light, as you can see here. You won't have a problem reading the time on that one. Now, I'm desperate to get to that lume test on these. Wow, these are some bright watches. Haven't even used my torch yet. As for the compounds in play here, I wonder if they say. Here we go, C3 full luminous dial. But obviously not quite the case on the black version. Even so, these almost look like one of these paint parties at a nightclub. There we go. Yeah, the one on the left, outstanding performance. This one on the right, maybe a bit of a disappointment, actually. While the bezel and hands are good, those markers did fade a little bit pretty quickly. And while they won't have a problem in pitch black conditions, as you can see, certainly not as bright as I was expecting. But overall, you're still going to be able to read these watches in the dark, regardless of which one you go for. And when I touch each of these, my little gem tester here will tell me if this is sapphire crystal, in which case the little needle will fly to the right, or whether it's just mineral glass, in which case it'll kind of stay where it is. Let's test this loomed one. Yep, that flies straight into that ruby sapphire section. And the black version of the watch is exactly the same as you'd probably expect. So is this case actually scratch resistant? Well, I guess it's time to find out. And we're going to find out using this Mohs hardness test kit. Now how this works basically is you have a set of picks here numbered from 2 all the way through to 9, 9 being the hardest material. And essentially we can judge how good this case material is against scratches by seeing which numbered pick it requires to scratch it. Now for context, standard stainless steel I previously tested, you typically get light scratches with pick number 5 and then deeper scratches at pick number 6 or above. So we really want something higher than that. And for comparison, previous ones I've tested included a hardened steel Trasker watch that had minor scratches at level 7 with deeper ones at level 8. And then the best steel I've tested was from Sin, which had lighter scratches at like level 8, I think, and deep scratches at level 9. But I'm not expecting for a watch at this price to quite achieve those sorts of scores, but we'll see how far we get. As long as we beat standard stainless steel, I guess that's a win. So let's start with pick number 5, eh? I'm going to do this on the case back so not to mutilate the watch too badly. Definitely some resistance on the pick at level 5, but actually, when you look up close on this one, yeah, nothing there at the moment from 5. You can just wipe it away. I think if anything, it was actually residue coming off the pick. You'll see there's no marks or damage whatsoever up there. So definitely doing better than standard steel already. But let's try pick number 6, because this is the one where standard steel really came undone. And again, I can see like a very small line. Is that actually a scratch? And no, that just wipes away again. So let's just do one more, just to be on the safe side. Apparently this pushing away from you technique is the way to use these. So I've done that quite a few times there. And yeah, absolutely no signs of scratching. You can just wipe away the residue there. So it's definitely better than standard stainless steel, at least by quite a bit. Let's try pick number 7. Surely we'll get a scratch here. We'll go back up to that top right corner. And yeah, we're getting just some light scratches now. So you can see just here we're getting that slight line, which is still actually better than most of the steel watches at about level 5, like the untreated steel watches anyway, so not bad. And I'm assuming this means that level 8 here will yield the same results as the Trasker. We should get some deeper scratches here. Let's see. And yep, straight away, that is your standard scratches. No need for me to go any further because you can see this quite clearly. There you go. You can just see those scratches there. So that is the end of this test, basically. It'll just be the same for the high number 9 pick, which means this isn't really a gimmick. This is definitely substantially more scratch resistant than standard stainless steel, which is good. And all while looking exactly the same. Just like the Trasker did, just looks like standard steel, maybe a fraction darker there, but you would never know the difference out in the wild. Yet it's got this extra cool property, which will definitely reduce the number of scratches you get. So that's a quick look at these new Spec Monster dive watches from San Martin. They're both linked in the video description if you want to check them out for yourself. Very impressive materially, no doubt. Just not 100% feeling the looks of the more functional one, ironically. I have that better low light performance, but I do think this one in the black here, I think looks like something that you'd be able to wear much more often, at least for my wardrobe. And if I've got any AliExpress discount codes, by the way, for these watches, I'll also link those in the video description too. They do keep chopping and changing, but you might be able to get these substantially cheaper again.